meeting is being recorded. This meeting is being recorded, and we'll make it publicly available to anyone after tonight who couldn't attend. If you'd like to, the meeting will be available. So thank you for joining us. It's the Route 12 South Transportation Corridor meeting. Lisa and I work for Southwest Regional Planning Commission. It's one of 9 regional planning commissions in New Hampshire. And long-range transportation planning is a key role that the regional planning commissions play. Long-range transportation planning is about understanding the current conditions, understanding the future demand for transportation, and working to address the transportation needs of the population in our area or our region. And one more thing, I need to share my screen. I have a presentation. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Carol, for putting your information in the chat box. Carol Ann.
Okay. And my screen should be visible now. Southwest Connects. We're updating our long-range transportation plan. The title of the plan is Southwest Connects. The last time it got updated, it was in 2014. And as part of our update, we're holding these meetings and we're listening to people from our region and collecting input on the transportation system from them. And when we finish our update to our plan next year, the title of the plan will be through 2023 through 2050. Okay. In 2014, at the encouragement of New Hampshire DOT, Southwest Regional Planning Commission changed the structure of the long-range transportation plan to a corridor-based sub-regional plan. So the old model looked at all the towns equally through one lens, and the new model is focused on corridors. There are 8 major corridors in the Southwest New Hampshire region. Corridor is a route that connects major destinations within the region. And the corridor approach to transportation is beneficial because the corridors mirror the movement of people, the predominant movement of people. It's a good scale at which to engage with regional stakeholders, and corridor level analyses encourage more complete investigation of non-transportation factors that impact the transportation system, such as land use and economic development, which tend to be administered at the local level, but they have implications for regional transportation. The 12 South Corridor, it's one of the 8 corridors in the region. It includes the towns of Fitzwilliam, Keene, Marlborough, Richmond, Swansea, and Troy. Each corridor of the region has a backbone highway. 12 South is the principal highway in this corridor. There are approximately 17.7 miles of Route 12 on this corridor, from Keene at the junction of Route 101 down to Fitzwilliam at the Massachusetts state line. New Hampshire 12 is an arterial highway, and arterial is a functional classification that describes the busiest roads with the highest amount of traffic and the greatest proportion of total travel. So the busiest roads are arterials, and the 12 South Corridor also includes a network of minor arterial and collector roads in addition to Route 12. And collector roads they're main roads that have less traffic on them than the arterials. And the collector roads connect the arterials to local roads. The other roads included in this corridor are New Hampshire Route 32, a portion of Route 119, Main Street in Keene, Airport Road and Flat Roof Mill Road in Swansea, Monadnock Street in Troy, Royalston Road in Fitzwilliam. And roads that are part of the corridor are shown in yellow on the map. This map shows the location and severity level of crashes that have occurred between 2011 and 2020. Red is a fatal crash site, and orange is a crash site where serious injury occurred. And the blue is a fatal or serious crash that involved a non-motorized person. The map is only showing you the location of crashes. There could be more than one fatality or more than one injury at each crash site. And on the Route 12 South corridor between 2011 and 2020, there were 19 crashes that involved serious injuries and 4 that involved fatalities. And there were 4 non-motorized fatal or serious crashes as well. So in general, safety on roads can be improved by lowering vehicle speeds, improving or adding signage and signals, and by increasing visibility and pavement markings. There are 2 roundabouts on the corridor, one on Route 12 near the Keene-Swansea border, and one on Route 32 in Swansea near the schools. Roundabouts improve safety by reducing vehicle speed. Municipalities can improve the transportation safety through the adoption of a complete streets policy and complete streets design guidelines. And complete streets are streets that are designed for all users, not just cars, including cyclists and pedestrians. Complete streets policy reflects this, and the guidelines for safety improvements consider all road users and not just cars. Keene, Swansea, and Troy have adopted municipal complete streets policy, and Marlborough is currently working with Southwest on their complete streets policy as well. Recent improvements to safety on the corridor include in 2020, the town of Troy received funding from MAST, that's the Monadnock Alliance for Sustainable Transportation, for a pedestrian crossing at the intersection of Monadnock Street and Route 12, Troy. The project is underway, not completed. And Fitzwilliam received funding from the Highway Safety Improvement Program for improving safety at the intersection of Route 12 and Route 119. Improvements included reconfiguring the lanes, deflection median, adding a turning lane, and just traffic calming measures to slow traffic at that intersection, make it a little safer. And Swansea received funding through the Highway Safety Improvement Program also for the 2 roundabouts that I mentioned earlier. One's on Route 12 near Lake Street, Swansea Factory Road and Route 12, and then another one on Route 32 near the schools. Using traffic count data, we can monitor changes in traffic volume over a 6-year period. There are traffic count locations shown here where Southwest Regional Planning Commission collects traffic data for New Hampshire DOT on the 12 South Corridor. And AADT stands for Average Annual Daily Traffic. It's the average number of vehicles per day. The more recent, so they collect data every 6 years. So the benchmark data is from 2012 or 2013. And then the more recent data is from 6 years later, so 2018 or 2019. And the most significant increase in traffic volume occurred at the Massachusetts state line on Route 12, where there was a 32.6% increase in traffic from 6 years. And there were other notable increases in Fitzwilliam on Route 12 over Scott Brook, where there was a 30.3% increase in traffic volume. And in Keene on Main Street, south of Appleton Street, 26.5% increase in traffic, over the last 6 years. This is an inflow outflow graphic showing where residents on this corridor work. So approximately 10,599 people travel daily to work from outside the corridor to one of the 6 towns that comprises the corridor for work. There are approximately 9,292 people who live and work on the corridor, and 8,756 who live in the corridor in one of the 6 towns and travel to work outside of the corridor. And the top destinations for commuting for people that live in this corridor are Keene, Jaffrey, Swansea, and Rindge. The population in this the corridor has decreased over the last 10 years, about 2.1%. And the only town out of the 6 that had an increase in population during that period, 2010 to 2019, was Marlborough, who had a 0.7% increase. So the population in Marlborough increased by 15 people, and the other 5 towns saw a decrease over that period. The population projections indicate that the population in the corridor will increase by 3% in 2040. So population increases, so do the number of trips generated through the corridor. And we've already seen like a significant increase in traffic over 6 years, and we can expect to see more if the population increases as it's predicted to. Most people that use this corridor drive for transportation. However, there are alternative modes of transportation that exist, and they're important to people who can't drive because the cost of transportation is high. There are a disproportionate number of low-income residents. People using the corridor make predictable trip patterns between places that can be supplemented by transit or rideshare if we understand them better. Alternative transportation is limited. However, in addition to the personal cars, there's other forms of transportation. There is transit service, limited transit service, bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, volunteer driver program on this corridor. The bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure is pretty extensive in Keene. There are bike lanes, sidewalks, curb ramps and things. And it's also present in the other towns on the corridor to a lesser extent. The rail trail runs parallel to Route 12, and it provides options for transportation if you don't want to ride or walk on the highway. And there's transit. The transit is mostly within the city of Keene, the transit that's sort of applicable to this corridor. Within the city of Keene, Home, Healthcare, Hospice, and Community Service, or HCS, operates the City Express, which provides fixed route service to 30 locations, and the Friendly Bus for adults over 60. There's a volunteer driver program offered by the Community Volunteer Transportation Company, or CVTC, and they serve the towns on this corridor. They provide no fee transportation to people who do not have access to transportation because of age, ability to drive, economic situation, or other circumstances. And CVTC will offer trips, but they must be non-emergency medical, social service appointments, grocery store, pharmacy, bank, or post office trips. And the service that they offer is limited by the number of available volunteer drivers. So if you live in a community and you're concerned about transportation options for folks who can't drive, you could consider recruiting drivers for CVTC and offering volunteer driver service through their program. Okay, there is a rail trail on the New Hampshire 12 South Corridor. It's called the Cheshire Rail Trail, and it extends from Fitzwilliam at the Massachusetts-New Hampshire border all the way up to Walpole. And there are about 17 miles of the Cheshire Rail Trail that run parallel to Route 12, starting at 101 on this corridor, starting from Route 101 in Keene and heading south to Fitzwilliam. The section, the rail trail that runs parallel to the Route 12 is called the Cheshire Branch. And New Hampshire DOT owns the rail right-of-way with some exceptions. They acquired the right-of-way with federal funds in 1995, and it's cooperatively managed by the New Hampshire Department of Natural and Cultural Resources Bureau of Trails. The rail trails for non-motorized users, with the exception of wintertime snowmobile use. And the city of Keene has received funds for some improvements to the rail trail. And one of them is going to be safety railings on this bridge right here. This is the bridge over the Branch River on the rail trail in Keene. In addition to that, the city of Keene is also planning to develop an abandoned section of rail trail bed between Eastern Ave and Route 101. And then they're also going to have a bridge crossing of Route 101 as well. So be some changes ahead for the rail trail. This slide shows segments of the population that live in the corridor. These groups have different transportation needs that we are considering as we do our long-range transportation plan. 16% of the corridor population is under 18. That's a population that mostly does not drive. Some of them can, I suppose, but largely youth population, it doesn't drive. The youth population is 28% in Keene. That's the highest percentage of youth population out of the 6 towns on the corridor. And seniors make up 19% of the corridor population. Fitzwilliam, Marlborough, and Swansea have the highest percentage of seniors in the population out of the 6 towns that comprise the corridor. The percentage of low-income residents in this corridor is 16%. Higher than average locations are Keene, Richmond, and Troy. And 21% of all families with children on the corridor are single-parent families. A higher proportion of single-parent families are in Keene and Troy. Single-parent households tend to need more flexible transportation options to deal with time constraints. And individuals with disabilities make up about 15% of the population, and Swansea and Troy have higher than average percentages. Okay, Lisa, would you like to speak to us now? And you're muted.
All right. So Andrew's created this map that we're going to use to be able to find some key locations. So what we'd like you to do is to share your input on things like safety, you know, where some areas that may have, may not be located on the safety map as being a, you know, serious accident, but maybe a place that you've got some concerns that there's, you know, a lot of near hits. And there also would like your input on some areas that maybe the road is either flooded often on heavy storm events, or it comes up pretty close to the road. Keep in mind, we're not just talking about Route 12 South proper. You know, there's also several smaller roads, as Andrew had mentioned in one of the previous ones. Also, if you know of any types of solutions to some of the issues that you raised, we'd love to hear those as well.
Can I say a few words about this map before we dive in, Lisa?
Definitely.
So this is a public map. So I'll make the link available. So if anybody wants to add points to the map, it's really easy to use. We'll show you how to use it, but it's easy to use. And you can also look at other comments that people have submitted, such as this one. And it will give you the description. You can like it if you agree with the comment, and you can also leave a comment on the comment. So it's an interactive tool. You can look at other people's comments. Just make sure you are polite if you leave comments. Should we go to the discussion?
Yeah, actually, I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Is there, well, I guess maybe this is a quick comment, but is there any chance you could put that in the chat right now for us to look at or open? That way.
Sure. Yeah, I can do that. I have to stop my share in order to do that, but I will bring it back in a second.
Sorry if I made a problem.
No, that's okay. I always forget that I can't use the chat when I'm sharing my screen. One moment. Okay, I put the main link to the app. It's called the Crowdsource Reporter app. And we also have, a more standard form survey on our website too. So on our website, SWRPC/SouthwestConnect/survey, we have a link to both the map and the survey. And the first link that I put in a minute ago is a link directly to the map.
Perfect, thank you.
Sure, no problem. One moment, I'll bring the map back up and we can dive back into the presentation or the discussion, I mean. Okay, so let's go for safety.
Well, we know for sure that one of the more dangerous areas along this corridor are the Fitzwilliam 12 119 intersection. Another one is in Swansea, but let's talk about this one first.
Yeah, Lori Nolan, who she said she had to duck out early, so she may be gone. She's mentioned that this is a dangerous intersection and there are crashes or like near misses. Lori, oh, she's there. Okay, I'll let you talk.
Yeah, so this intersection here, like you said in your presentation, the DOT did do some work around here, but it almost feels like it had the opposite effect. Where instead of kind of bringing the road in, they took down, but like made it wider site-wise. So it's almost like a chute where the people just like shoot through it to see if there's more they can go. So do you have any more comments?
The biggest problem with that intersection, which anyone who drives through it knows, is that it's not at a right angle. And so no matter what you do there, you have problems. And the left turn lanes on going north or south are ambiguous at best. The lines end long before the intersection, so the cars are just sort of out there waiting to turn. But it's also just that there's just too much going on at that intersection, and the traffic has increased immensely in the last, I'd say in the last 5 years.
Something that we always ask as part of these discussions is after identifying a problem, what's a solution that you'd like to see or a solution that you think might address the traffic safety at that intersection?
Solution.
Where?
Route 12, 119.
Those wonderful. Yeah, well, that's been
No, but a lot of people say roundabouts, but I don't know where that would or not.
Here's the problem with the roundabout at that location, is that you would be wiping out several businesses at that intersection. Sadly.
There are a lot of curb cuts there too.
I know a lot of people like roundabouts in the state DOT like roundabouts, no offense, but they do. And sometimes they can help travel situation, but often they take away the rural character or any kind of character. I don't know that there's a good fix for that intersection. I don't think anybody's come up with anything that's gonna help.
But that's why they put those, whatever those things.
150 feet down, we have a town road that comes off as well. And then a gas station right there too. So there are a lot of curb cuts with businesses. So I'm not sure what the solution is, but in Fitzwilliam, I would say speed is a major issue on Route 12, especially from 119 south. And
Oh, yeah.
a lot of the
People are going 65 miles an hour.
a lot of the traffic incidents probably on on the south part to the state line are probably, I would say, speed related.
I don't know, rumble strips? They're noisy.
Speed bumps, speed bumps, well, it's almost good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did some research on the DOT project, and I think they came to the conclusion that because of the size of the right of way and the businesses that were there, they didn't feel like they had enough space to put the right of way in. So yeah, it's just sort of went with
Well,
the
they had-
traffic.
Yeah, they had altered it to be kind of more of a peanut shape, so it was squeezed in the middle kind of. But the
Mhm.
problem with that was that the turning radius for a snowplow was not sufficient.
Yeah, not enough space.
Yeah.
That would be interesting, a peanut shaped rotary.
Well, they actually drew a plan for it, but it was problematic for snowplows. They would have had to change what kind of plows they were using on those two roads. Supposedly.
Well, the main reason they didn't do that was because it was a safety thing.
Yeah,
There was safety money involved,
yeah.
and if they put that peanut thing in, they would have used all the safety money for the
Oh.
state. They didn't have.
Yes, we have another answer here. This is something.
So,
It's funny, just-
we've got people coming in for conservation, so that the comments privilege, so I'm gonna have to, did you sign up here, but did you happen to hear
That last one.
highest comment about, the roundabout and why it didn't go through?
Yeah, we'll record that, definitely. Thank you for your feedback, Town of Fitzwilliam.
Hey,
Alrighty, Andrew, you've got to
Good
sign
luck.
up for our next meeting.
Okay, have a good Conservation Commission meeting. Thank you.
Okay, so what about areas outside of Fitzwilliam? I know the other one that's certainly a key area is in Swansea, the Route 32 intersection. Nobody likes that. Where are you going here?
There's a comment already logged there, so.
That's
Recommends.
actually in Keene,
Oh, okay,
but very close to Swansea.
yes.
Yep, that's been nominated to the 10-year plan for improvements to the intersection for safety as well.
What do you foresee as a resolution to that intersection?
I believe it would be widening and reconfiguring it so that it's more of a right angle, a little easier to turn at. But I can look at the 10-year plan nomination form and follow up with more details with you on that. Not sure all that they're proposing.
Any
When they, what's that?
any consideration for a traffic light or any traffic control devices?
That I don't know. Lisa, do you know if they're considering control devices for that intersection as part of the 10-year plan, or if it's just to improve the turning?
I don't know. It certainly would not be a bad idea. I know that the idea of putting the roundabout, further south was to help provide access there, and it would be interesting to make a comparison of the traffic counts to see if it has made a difference.
Yeah, that's right. So they routed the Route 12 traffic down Lake Street to avoid that turn.
And it helps, definitely. I don't know if they're considering a light. I know they try to avoid traffic lights, but that's such a dangerous intersection.
It is sort of a busy intersection, and it's a difficult place to exit from onto Route 12. You have that sharp angle. So when you're trying to look to the right, you don't really have a great clear view of traffic traveling north on 12.
Yeah, I agree. That's a difficult intersection, and I can follow up with you about the specifics of the proposal that are in the 10-year plan for modifying that intersection.
So ideally, I mean, you'd like to have it perpendicular to 12, but I don't think that's possible, or feasible, because there's already obviously a building there, I believe a residence, so.
Yeah. I have to
Lots
look
of
at,
other locations, and again, doesn't have to be on Route 12. Route 32 is one of the areas.
Well, I do have a spot on 12 that is somewhat concerning.
Okay.
And it's after Safford Road traveling north. So what you have is a speed limit reduction from 40 to 30. I believe you have already something there identified. And it's somewhat near Monadnock Ford, if you know the road. There's a little bit of a curvature in the roadway, but the significant item there is a dip. So when cars traveling north on 12 have, it's a somewhat of a blind view straight forward. And what you have is an increase in businesses, vehicles entering and leaving certain businesses there. So cars are trying to slow down. Unfortunately, cars don't slow down in the 30, and they continue to go 40, 45, 50, or even faster. So the first or second car might be able to stop for a car that's making a right turn or a left turn. But what you have is sort of a Concordian effect, and maybe the fourth or fifth car will not stop in time. And what you have is a rear end collision or a car veering off to the right to try to avoid a collision. And it's all due to the lack of vision to the front because of that dip you have. So the solution to that would be try to alleviate the dip so there's more view to the front. So drivers maybe 4 or 5 cars back of a car that's stopping can see there's going to be a stoppage in front of them.
So you said this dip is right near Monadnock Ford?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, that does get pretty busy there with the businesses.
A few months ago, we had a dump truck that lost control and ended up hitting a telephone pole, snapped it in half.
Oof.
And it was an accordion effect. 2, 3 cars in front of him kind of stopped because the car was turning. And then obviously it's the third or fourth car in that line of traffic that's traveling 45, 50 miles an hour can't stop in time.
Okay. What about some other areas? I see a few more yellow dots.
I use the rail trail a lot, and I think that the crossing on Route 101 is extremely unsafe. It's right here. They already put it, yeah. However, the city is planning to address that by adding a bridge across Route 101 for pedestrians. So looking forward to that.
So I have one as well, actually.
Sure.
So obviously, you guys know I'm a little newer to town, but on my commutes in, I've noticed that. So this is on 10 heading south, right where it connects into Matthews Road. So you notice, yeah, you're right about there.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's right on the Keene side. That intersect, yeah, you're hovering it right now. My issue that I've noticed with this, and maybe the chief can elaborate a little bit more on that, because I noticed we had some officers that had received a call for that, but basically residential area, central Swansea, heading north, they might take that way, or they might head up Old Homestead. But if they take up Matthews Road, especially during the busy commute hours, that corner right there will basically it's a lesser version that we were just speaking about on 12. It's not angled, right angle. There's no traffic controls in that sense, and so that creates the accordion or the free for all effect that I think that we're experiencing on both sides.
Yeah, that's definitely an area that I agree with too.
All right. It's off the Route 12 corridor, but we'll allow it. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm cheating a little bit.
That's okay. That's okay. We would take feedback, like definitely use the map to provide feedback anywhere in the region.
Looks like the chief got bumped off for a minute there. Bring
I just let him back in.
I did.
Okay. Is there anything else for safety that anyone wants to discuss before we move on to the next topic?
You back with us, chief?
Yes, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened.
That's okay.
So I don't know if you heard, Andrew was making last call for safety issues. So we're not just talking about vehicles, it could be pedestrians, bicycles. Are there areas that are in particularly scary, seeing a bicycle or people trying to cross the road in any of these sections?
Well, I think wherever you might have traffic traveling at 50 miles an hour or even 40 miles an hour, having pedestrians or bicyclists in the vicinity is always precarious because, higher velocity vehicles, when they, slightly lose control, can cause a deadly accident. So it's always concerning. There's really very little sidewalk availability on Route 12. So a pedestrian would be taking their lives in their hands there, trying to walk down the side of the road or jog. And cyclists would have to be very careful also. We do have quite a few cyclists who go up and down. And it's, a truck going by at 50 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour can create quite a disturbance for a cyclist too. So I would rather take the rail trail than be on 12 any day.
And one of our coworkers lives in Troy, and he rides his bike here quite a bit in the summertime.
Yeah, it's a little dangerous. It's too dangerous for me. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Also, while we've got the screen where it's at, the Flat Roof Mill intersection, I used to travel Flat Roof Mill a lot, and that's always dangerous trying to come out of Flat Roof onto, make a left turn onto 12. That's just such a strange drop in a decline from coming from the well, it's a hill coming down to Flat Roof if you're on the right. And then it's got that curve. So I don't know if anything can be done there.
And I agree with you. That's a kind of a awkward intersection. You traveling south on 12, it does have a downward decline, and people tend to pick up speed there going down. And obviously they're starting to get ready to get to that 50-mile-an-hour zone after that intersection.
Right.
But it's a little bit of a curve there, so that kind of keeps them in check to a certain degree. But then you have traffic traveling north that's at 50 miles an hour coming towards that intersection, which then changes to 40 miles an hour. So you have to have your head on a swivel while you're at Flat Roof Mill Road too, because similar to further up the road, it's a sort of an awkward intersection, but you have vehicles traveling at a much higher rate of speed. Plus you have another dealership down there too. So that creates more traffic, people coming in and out.
Right. The other area that I wanted to make note of is, I don't think we have, is there anybody here from Keene? All right. That came through as a very high area for pedestrian bicycle accidents, Main Street, near the college and up through the main street stores. And I think they've done a good job with putting that divider in the road along the college area. It certainly seems to give some relief to anybody trying to cross the road, and narrows the road a bit to slow people down.
Mhm. It's also, it's very like difficult to cross Route 101
Yeah,
anywhere in general.
yeah. All right, how about infrastructure needs? Are there locations, and again, think beyond Route 12, are there locations of that have water concerns, stormwater runoff, river rising, that might cause flooding or might undermine the road? You know, that maybe culverts need to be increased. I can't think of any along here. Everything seems, you know, the road seems much higher than any of the low-lying embankments, river embankments. But it is one that in the other corridors that we've found to be a lot of conversation. What about any suggested improvements for bicyclists and pedestrians?
Well, obviously, I think if you could put in place any bicycle routes to enhance the travel of cyclists would improve them in the use of Route 12. Again, I've already kind of identified my concern about cyclists on that road, considering the speed of the vehicles, but, and then also sidewalks for pedestrians.
Are there particular areas of sidewalks?
As far as Swansea, I would say further north you go towards Keene, the more important the sidewalk would be, because you do have some businesses there. We do have some apartment buildings that are going in off Safford Road. And they'll be between 302 and 12. I think there's about 200 units that'll be going in there.
You said they're going in between where?
32 and 12.
Okay,
So we anticipate more pedestrian traffic with those apartment buildings going in place. Maybe more people using or trying to use the rail trail for recreation. Any ability to allow cyclists or pedestrians to gain access to the rail trail would be probably appreciative.
you, and maybe you said this and I was too busy writing, how many apartments are anticipated?
I believe there's about 200, if I'm not mistaken.
Julius, do you have any comment on that?
I think I lost you there for a little bit. I was scrolling through the map. Do you mind rephrasing that again?
How many apartments are going in around Safford Drive?
Oh, okay. So there was two proposals for that side. The first one, I believe, is going to be at 86, I think is what it's predetermined right now, but that could ebb and flow as they're discussing some plans with the board. And so that's kind of the biggest topic right now, is about 100 of those units. And so the individuals in there, some of them are singles, some of them are doubles. So the actual numbers really depends on the individuals that are going to be in the location. So yeah, I'd say I don't want to throw out too many numbers until we know where the board's going to land on this one, but that's give or take the range.
Mm-hmm.
So each apartment, you could probably guess there'd be somewhere between 1 to 2 vehicles assigned to each apartment.
Right,
So we can call it a 1.5, but that would be a sizable increase of traffic on Safford Drive, either towards 12 or 32.
I
right.
think that the argument that the board is really going through right now, and obviously this is a hot button topic on hand with how it will affect the town or not with traffic or whatnot. But because it is age restricted, I think the goal, and at least the studies that have been done on this project and a number of other times, have shown that although there might be a number of cars at this housing lots, they're not always going to be driven at peak time. So there will be an increase in traffic, but will it be as substantial during those important times? I think that's important to note for this location. But I will say that will still, without a doubt, had some level of impact.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Lisa,
Yes,
there's 4 projects going in that area. The most recent one is 76 units that Julius was speaking of that need site plan approval. Otherwise, in total, there's 396 units that are going in that triangle, essentially Safford Drive, Route 12, Route 32. And then there's, of that 396, 32 units are further south on Route 32, near where the fire station is proposed to go.
okay, great. Now I recognize who Bill is.
Oh, God bless you.
Good
And
to
thanks
have you on.
to Bill for keeping me honest. I said 86 and it's 76, but
It's okay, Julius. We'd love to have 86.
I thought of another question that would be helpful to know. Have you noticed any increase in bicyclists prior to the weather turning cold? I've noticed that quite a few people are riding the e-bikes on West Street in Keene. It seems like a good way for somebody who can't afford a car to buy an e-bike and you know, get to places. So, you know, I'm wondering if we're gonna start to see more bicyclists on the road and really increase the need for, you know, those widened lanes. But suspect we'll see those. How about any infrastructure needs, charging stations? Have you found any need in Swansea or in, I don't think we have anybody left on here from Fitzwilliam.
Yeah, so the Energy Commission, I just met with them today. I think their goal is to do a study on what the necessarily demand for charging stations is. I know at some points they had a discussion, not the Energy Commission, but either a committee or I'm not sure the exact group, but they met with the local library to see about a charging station on that site. So I would say at this point, it's still a little too early for us in this regards, and maybe Bill or maybe the chief has heard otherwise at this point. But I think that the topic at hand really needs to be addressed more recently, now that we know that electric vehicles in the town has been increasing. So
Well, I think it's important to, thanks for that, Julius, you know, to acknowledge and put it into this plan, because you never know what kind of funding might come available, and certainly we can point to this and you know, it might boost your chances for getting some funding. Andrew, I don't really have anything else. Do you have other questions?
No, that's all I have, unless there are any other comments from the group. Can wrap it up.
Actually, I do have one more. And we kind of touched a bit on it, but land use changes. Other than the apartments going in, do you have any proposed changes for zoning? Do you have any regulation changes, or do you anticipate some of the vacant land being purchased and construction happening?
yeah, so there will be some minor changes to our zoning ordinance, but right now that's those proposals are strictly just to make basically understand verbiage, changing the terminologies, making a bit more concurrent of a document. There doesn't seem to be any large scale changes in that regards to the documents this upcoming year. The planning board has been inundated with a couple applications or a few applications this year, so I think that's been their primary focus. I can say that the board does anticipate that there'll be some level of a conservation, basically to conserve some of our large water bodies in town. We put basically not expand the buffer, but allow for protections for properties that are abutting it. So not that that necessarily pertains to this matter here, but that's on the radar for potentially next year. So unless we receive much guidance otherwise, that's kind of our intent this year.
Hey, thank you. That's it for me.
Okay. All right, well. All right, well, that's concludes our meeting then. Thanks to everyone who came, and thank you for your participation and your input. And we'll be recording this input and making it available online for along with the video and the slides that we're using tonight. Yeah.
Before you sign off, can you bring the screen back on? 'Cause it's got some links. And also,
What links do you want?
probably the survey.
Okay, so the
Let's
survey is
talk about
already,
the
I already put that link in the chat.
Okay,
So anyone who wants to provide more input can go to the chat and click on the link. That's swrpc.org/southwestconnect/survey. And that'll bring you to our, we have a traditional form-based survey and then the interactive map. If you want to provide us with any more feedback, go ahead and use that link in the chat. And this link here in the chat is just our main website. So we have information about future meetings, past meetings. You can read our long-range transportation plan and find out more about the project from the webpage there. So.
well, I know surveys are a pain in the neck sometimes, and we get surveyed to death, but it is the most effective way to collect information and be able to group it for a plan such as this. So we would appreciate you going in and filling out the survey.
So what is the time frame for the map to input some of these, the concerns about the areas? Because I'd love to have the time to sit down with, the planner and code enforcement officer, maybe the chief, and we can really parcel out some of these areas, and it might take some time to do that. Is there a time frame? What are you guys looking at?
We're planning on leaving it up for at least 6 months. The update to the plan will be completed in July of next year. So it'll be up at least through next spring.
Perfect.
And you can also send emails to Lisa or I. Our information is on the webpage where I sent you a minute ago. You'll be able to find our information there. And you could send an email to us if you wanted to comment that way, or you could use the survey or the map, however you like. Just reaching out and
Ideally, if you can get the information, probably a little prior to July, it'll help us to have some time to work with it.
Yeah, no, it's I think it's a good tool, so I appreciate you guys in doing that.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anything else that you would like to share, Lisa?
Nope, I'm all set. Have a nice
Okay.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, thanks again to everyone who came out on a Monday night, and happy Thanksgiving. And we appreciate your input. And don't hesitate to get in touch with Lisa or I if you have any questions or any further comments. And I guess I put my email in the chat before I go too. So if anybody wants to email me, you can.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Night all.